Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Training 101. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger here, just symbolizes, bodybuilding and fitness. He's pretty much the poster child for it all. But anyways, we're going to dive right in. How to achieve any goal you have in your fitness journey. So, what is your goal and why? This is the first thing you need to know. I mean, if you're going to a destination you've never been, you need a roadmap, right? So, you have to establish a goal for the gym so you can kind of have a framework of what to do when you're actually, again, at the gym. So, whether your goal be weight loss, weight gain, or just body recomp. Body recomp is probably trying to maintain weight, so you're going to try to lose fat while putting on muscle type of thing. So you just kind of have to have a direction for where you want to go so that you can start programming, so you can start structuring your workouts accordingly, okay? So you should know what you're trying to achieve so you can develop a plan of action, okay? You have to have a strong reason for why you're going to the gym. So why now? Why now versus before? I don't know, some people are just now getting in their fitness journey just fairly late in life, which is a good thing, but you have to know why now. Am I willing to do the uncomfortable work necessary to change now and actually make fitness a part of my lifestyle? You have to ask yourself that, because if you don't have the strong enough reason why, when motivation is lacking, you're probably going to end up not going, because that's how a lot of people are. They're constantly in and out with their habits and just kind of never are consistent with them. So you have to ask yourself two other questions. What will happen if you don't? You got to think about the consequences that you're going to feel. How are you going to feel about yourself looking in the mirror? Okay, where's your health going to be years down the road? And for some people, their situation kind of relates to this quote over here. I heard this one the other day. One day your body will become your priority, whether by choice or by consequence. So some people pretty much waited till they started having health problems or whatever happened in your life that okay, now by consequence I have to go. Which again, this could be the start of a completely new chapter of your life. So that could be a blessing. I mean, that is a blessing in disguise now that you're here and trying to turn your life around. So then again, what will it look like if you do? Just to have you have to essentially manifest your goal. You have to think about what you want to look like and where you want to be, and just let that be your driving force behind why you're going to the gym. Okay. And again, just lastly, I don't know if you guys have read the book The Mountain Is You. I know this sounds irrelevant, but this is all about mindset, because if you're going to be going to the gym, you have to have a strong why to why you're going, so you can make this part of your lifestyle and start achieving your goal. All right, so for me, I believe this is important. Anyways, from the book The Mountain Is You, I don't know if any of you have read it, by Brianna Wiest. It says here that your mountain is the block between you and the life you want to live. Facing it is also the only path to your freedom and becoming. You are here because a trigger showed you to your wound, and your wound will show you to your path, and your path will show you to your destiny. So metaphorically in the book, of course, the mountain is you. The mountain is you. You are the thing standing between you and your goal. So the only thing stopping you, or that has been stopping you your entire life, is you. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Matrix, but in every hero's journey, you reach this crossroads where you're torn between the life you've been living and the life you know you're destined for. And this movie scene in The Matrix gives me chills if you've seen it. Neo's leaving the car. They basically say our way or the highway, So he starts exiting the car. He's about to head back to the life he's been living, and Trinity stops him and he says, "You've been down there, Neo. You already know that road. You know exactly where it ends. And I know that's not where you want to be." And I know most people kind of watching this, if you're just starting your journey and you've kind of just reached that breaking point, you're at that hero's journey, that crossroads, where it's going to be between the life you've been leading or the life that you really want to live. So again, this is just all about having a strong why that's going to keep you going and have that fire rolling, and that's going to determine how far you take this thing, because you can achieve any goal you want in the gym. All right, anything. All right, so again, you have to kind of know the direction you're trying to go. So choose your path. Are you trying to lose weight, gain weight, or kind of maintain? So anyone who's trying to maintain usually wants to do a body recomp, which is essentially probably putting on muscle while losing fat. So I feel like this goes without saying, and it's common sense, but common sense is not always common knowledge. But to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit, right? To gain weight, you have to be in a caloric surplus. Sounds obvious. But anyway, if you're not sure how many calories you need to be consuming to be in a caloric deficit, it's very simple. Just look on Google. There's weight loss calculators, and it's just going to ask you questions like, okay, age, height, weight, and your activity level, and you're going to just read the description for the activity levels and just determine which category you fall under. Okay, so for me, with all these stats, 28, 5'11", 215, very active. To maintain my weight, I have to have about 3,394 calories. To lose weight, I need about 2,894. So this is a 500 calorie deficit, and at this rate, if I'm in a 500 calorie deficit a day, I'm going to lose about a pound per week, because there's about 3,500 calories in a pound. So if you're in a 500 calorie deficit 7 days a week, that's 3,500 calories. And then same goes for if you want to gain weight. You're going to try to aim for a 500 calorie surplus. So instead, I would be aiming for 3,894. Okay, and just rule of thumb, you usually want to be just in a 500 calorie deficit or surplus. That way, when you're putting on weight or losing weight, you're not just. So if you're trying to lose too much weight too fast, it's not always going to be just fat. It's not going to be sustainable, first of all, but you're also going to be losing some muscle if you're just like not fueling your body and giving it everything that it needs, right? Same goes for if you're trying to gain weight too fast. It's almost like some of that goes to waste and just turns straight to fat. Like, yes, it might help you put on a little bit of extra muscle, but that little bit of extra muscle probably, the fat to muscle gain ratio probably is not really the best risk reward, but it's up to you and what you want. But then, yeah, so again, just try to follow the rule of thumb, something sustainable like a 500 calorie surplus or deficit if you're trying to lose or gain weight. And then body recomp, especially for a beginner, just aim for your caloric maintenance, but incorporate training now. So it's going to inherently put you in a caloric deficit just because you're actually burning calories now. So that's basically the little breakdown on whichever path you want to go and how to get there. Okay, so we're going to be going over the fundamentals of training. So programming, form technique, rest and recovery, diet, nutrition, and lastly, mindset and sustainability. So programming, what are you trying to achieve? Again, this is you need to know your goals so you can establish a framework of how to get there. And in any solid program, you're trying to achieve progressive overload. And progressive overload is essentially using more weight over time, obviously, because you need to know if you're going to the gym, you should be getting stronger, right? So by tracking the amount of weight you're using, this is going to establish a base and just a track record for if you're actually making progress and if you need to adjust your program, right? And a lot of people reach plateaus because they're not changing up the rep ranges. A lot of people be like doing 8 to 12 reps just for weeks on end and just giving it intensity. And like in the beginning stages, yes, you could probably make a lot of gains and not plateau right away, but eventually you will plateau and your muscles will adapt and adjust, and you're gonna have to give it a new stimulus. That's why you switch to other rep ranges like this for strength and muscular endurance. You want to kind of cycle through these, and you want to have periods of deload where you're taking things light, letting your body nervous system fully recover, but we're going to be getting into that later. But anyways, typically to achieve hypertrophy, putting on muscle basically, you want to aim for 6 to 12 reps. That's what it says online, but most people follow the standard of around 8 to 12 reps because 6 is leaning a little bit more toward the strength side of things. If you want to aim for strength, if your goal is strength, to increase your strength, you're going to want to practice lower reps, right? Kind of makes sense. You get better at whatever you practice. So if you're practicing high reps, you're going to get better at high reps. If you practice low reps, you're going to get better at low reps. It's the same reason a sprinter sprints to get better at sprinting, and a cross-country runner is not. Well, they might incorporate some sprints, maybe. I don't know what they do, but they're going to train by actually doing that activity, that long-distance activity if you're in cross-country. But if you're a sprinter, you're not going to do most of your training and just running miles on end. You're going to be doing short burst, high fast twitch fiber muscle activation kind of exercises. Okay, so yeah, that's just kind of the science behind all of it. But anyways, yeah, as I said, so you don't plateau. You always want to be changing up the rep ranges, okay? But for strength, I usually aim for anywhere in between like the 3 to 6 rep range. I don't really often mess with 1 to 2 unless I'm trying to hit PRs, but there is a time and place for it. But as a beginner, as you're establishing your form and technique, probably shouldn't really be messing with too heavy weights anyways, right? And muscular endurance, anything 15 plus reps. Okay, so how do you know what exercises to do? So usually for me, I pick anywhere from 4 to 6 exercises for pretty much my clients or myself. For me, I do 6 because I'm a little bit on the advanced side. But for beginners, you might want to just start with around 4 exercises per workout. So if you're trying to hit chest, just look up chest exercises, right? So you could do barbell bench press, dumbbell incline, chest flies, stuff like that. You can also hit back on the same day, whatever. But anyway, yeah, just look up exercises online for those specific muscle groups you want to target, and you're going to just choose 4 to 6 of them. It's really up to you. I'm not going to put a limiter on you and what you're capable of doing. But obviously, it's a little bit less is kind of more in the beginning as you try to see how your body can handle training. Because you might get really sore at first. You don't want to overdo it in the beginning, burn yourself out, or actually cause damage by trying to do too much, because you do need to recover, and there is such thing as overtraining. So when you determine what exercises you're doing, you're gonna perform each exercise for about 3 to 5 sets. Make sure you're doing warm-up sets though too. So the warm-up sets don't count toward this, or they could. It's up to you, especially because you're just a beginner anyway. Just test out the weight. Like I said, less is more in the beginning. Don't try to go too crazy heavy. Just feel out the weights and see how you do. And just remember, as you're performing each rep and you go along the sets, your muscles are gonna get fatigued, so the weight's gonna feel heavier. I feel like most people know that, obviously, but I mean, if you've never trained, maybe you don't. But yeah, so perform 3 to 5 sets of each exercise and determine what rep ranges you want to mess with. Usually beginners will start more for hypertrophy, or you could do even lower rep ranges, not for the sake of strength, but just to practice form, okay? So usually you want to focus on the heavier compound lifts earlier in the workout, which are like bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press. Compound movements are essentially movements that target multiple muscle groups at once. So when you're benching, you're not only using your chest, but your front delt's going to get used, your tricep. Anytime you're locking out your elbows, your triceps are being worked. So that's hitting like 3 muscle groups at once. So that's what they call a compound movement. So usually you want to focus on doing those earlier in the lifts. Usually people do that for their first exercises, then they move on to accessories like dumbbell incline bench, chest flies, stuff like that. Anyways, that's just a very simple breakdown of programming. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section. Then form and technique. So as you can see, I kind of have a little picture here to kind of symbolize what I'm talking about. So basically you want to lay a strong foundation from which you're going to build upon for the rest of your fitness journey. You want to have solid form, okay? You don't want each rep looking different, because that's how you might end up getting hurt, right? You want things to be fairly consistent. They don't have to be robotic and exactly the same every single rep, but you want them to not deviate too much from the mean. You want them to be fairly consistent, right? Because that's how people throw out their backs. Like all of a sudden they're changing up their form when they're trying to go really heavy, and their form doesn't look the same week to week or day to day. You know what I mean? So try to be as consistent as possible, just for safety purposes. There is no one size fits all when it comes to just any lift, especially when it comes to squat, deadlift, and bench. We all have different body types. So, you know, there are standard ways to perform lifts, but just look those up and try your best to mimic what they're doing. But again, everyone's body type's different. Like you'll see some people squatting ass to the grass, and some people just aren't capable of that just because of the way their hips are placed, all of that. You can kind of improve your mobility, but not everyone's going to be able to get that full Asian deep squat, you know what I mean, where they're literally ass to the grass. You know, some people just have to be pretty much parallel. So, like I said, no one size fits all approach. Just find what feels comfortable and works for you, and try to improve weekly on your form, and focus on form over the weight, especially in the beginning. But those are just for the more complicated movements like squat, deadlift, bench, and stuff. But when you're using machines and other stuff, it's pretty straightforward and simple. But yeah, so this is not only for safety, but for laying a strong foundation, like I said, that you will build upon over the course of your fitness journey. Consistency is key. Repetition is the mother of skill. How you do anything is how you do everything. So you want to practice excellence and just safety and patience when it comes to the gym. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So rest and recovery, for obvious reasons. You know, this is vital to your longevity. The strongest lifters are the ones who can stay in the game the longest injury-free. I'm going to keep reiterating this. Be patient. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You know, it's always the ones that try to sprint during a marathon that end up gassing, or, you know, they don't make it. You know, I've been that kid living that fast lane that's tried to lift with his ego, got hurt so many times. Don't be like me, be better. So yeah, rest is important for obvious reasons, just to prevent any kind of injuries. Give yourself the lowest probability of getting injured. You can never, you know, completely avoid potentially getting injured. Things happen. You never know. There's so many factors that could affect why something happens with your body. Maybe you did something that day, you kind of overworked your muscles, you know, things happen. But just a rule of thumb, you should rest a minimum of 2 days before working the same muscle group. When I say this, I mean more so 2 days in between. So if you did chest on Monday, you know, take Tuesday and Wednesday off. So then when Thursday comes around, if you lift at the same time again as you did Monday, you're going to have about 72 hours rest. But it doesn't always have to be a full 72 hours. If you had a light session, chest session earlier in the week, and you didn't really do too much, you can probably recover within 48 hours. But yeah, just don't rush the process. It's kind of like the analogy of baking a cake. You can't bake a cake twice as fast by turning up the heat twice as high. So some things take time. You got to let that damage you put on your muscles, right? So when you're lifting weights, you're literally causing micro tears. You're breaking down your muscles. They need time to kind of repair and you know, come back stronger, right? They're not just going to be completely 100% overnight. So you have to take that into account. But yeah. Anyway, aside from that, a good rule of thumb is the more intense the workout, the more time you will be that will be needed to fully recover from it. So listen to your body, especially if you are feeling any aches and pains in your muscles or joints. Then diet and nutrition. Again, know what your goals are, so that way you know what the macros you must hit. So macros are just short for macronutrients. People usually just say macros. It refers to the essential nutrients that provide energy to the body. So this just fuels your workouts, fuels your recovery, all that. That's why this is very important. So carbs, protein, fat, but protein to me is king, because obviously protein is the building block for your muscles. It helps repair your muscles. So this is how you're going to recover from the damage you're putting on your muscles, aside from sleep. So sleep, lowering your stress, and obviously having proper protein intake to you know, fuel this process of recovery. So just a rule of thumb, you should aim to consume a minimum of 1.2 to 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight for those that use kilograms. But for us in the US, 0.6 to 0.8 grams per pound. But a lot of people you'll hear in the fitness community say 1 gram per pound, which probably is needed in my opinion. I'd rather have a little bit more. I'd rather have more than I need than less to get the recovery I need, especially when you're getting to an elite level, or if you're working out while having a physical job. You should probably aim for about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And usually the higher you aim in protein anyway, you're going to be kind of forced to eat higher quality protein sources like chicken, beef, stuff like that, or protein powder, something healthier versus junk. Because if you're going to meet your caloric intake while trying to meet your macros of like protein, you're going to be less likely to be able to fit things in like donuts if you're going to try to stay within your caloric needs for your goal. So that's why I personally like to aim for 215, because it keeps me from eating any junk if I'm going to stay at my caloric deficit, right? So just an example, For me, I'm 215 pounds, experienced lifter with a very active lifestyle, so I would aim for 215 grams of protein. However, a beginner around the same weight as me would aim for 129 or 172 grams according to the books. But like I said, if you're also working a physical job or you have a fairly physically active lifestyle on top of lifting, aim for 172 to 215 if you're like the same weight as me. But 129 should essentially be the minimum that you should be taking in, even if you don't lift. And then lastly, we're just finishing off with mindset and sustainability. I just really want to drive home this mindset thing with two quotes here from some philosophers, Epictetus and Socrates. So Epictetus says, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And I think we can all agree on this. Like, we look at ourselves in the mirror at the end of the day, and we know if we put in the work that we'd be proud of, and if we'd be proud of the person that's looking back at us in the mirror. Like, that's why the gym is so important. Like, you're building not only your physique but your mindset. It's just the mind knowing that you are in alignment with the highest version of yourself. Because to have a very happy life, I believe you should try to have it across the board. It's like harmony and balance. You have to have everything. You can't just be financially set, intellectually. You got to be physically there too. That's my opinion. Maybe you guys have a different opinion, but then Socrates says, "No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable of." And we are capable of so much, and you have so much potential, so don't let it go unfulfilled. So I just kind of wanted to say that to get people a little bit more motivated. Just like I said, drive home the mindset to get you to really turn your life into what you've always believed it could be, right? So know your why, have a strong reason why, because when motivation is lacking, this is going to keep you going, right? This is going to keep you disciplined. And I like to tie in intensity and enjoyment, because in the beginning, especially when you're developing a habit and you want to make this a part of your lifestyle, you have to kind of enjoy it a little bit, right? You want to face the least amount of resistance possible. Later, as you start to establish this habit, you build momentum and you get this positive feedback loop from just seeing the gains and progress you're making. Then you can kind of step outside of your comfort zone and start pushing your limits a little bit more and doing some exercises that you know are going to benefit you, but like at first were kind of uncomfortable and you didn't really want to do, and they might have been a barrier. They might have raised your barrier to entry to really develop this habit of going to the gym. So don't worry about doing those right now. You just want to establish the habit, and it's all about intensity at the end of the day, because what you get, you get what you were willing to give. Your rewards in life are going to be pretty much in direct proportion to the level of effort you're willing to give them. And usually enjoyment and intensity go hand in hand. If you enjoy something, you inherently just tend to give more effort. So try to find workouts that you enjoy, and try to find programs. So you're going to structure your roadmap to get to your goal by looking online. Like I said, you can find any kind of program online. I offer coaching too, so if you're interested in any kind of coaching, you can hit me up in the DMs on Instagram or leave a comment. We can get in contact, see if we'd be a good fit for each other, because some people like that accountability of a coach, but there's other ways to achieve that. You could tell somebody that you really respect that you don't want to look stupid to. You wouldn't want to disappoint. You could tell your kids. You could start going to the gym with a friend. So you got to do anything that's going to hold you accountable. Tell people, or don't. It depends on how well disciplined you are, and when it comes to keeping the promises you make to yourself. So that's all on you to decide. And like I said, just again, your programming should have proper rest time as well. That way you're properly recovering between each workout. You're not burning yourself out, or just like I said, risking injury by not getting enough rest. So anyway, we're just going to end it there. I hope you guys learned something from this. You're going to start applying this to your fitness journey. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions and if there's any future videos or topics you'd like to see. But anyways, until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.